Okay, so we are on Testament base, right? And last week we spoke about what happened that when Acher was born, that his father saw that Rabbi Yehoshua and Rabbi Lezer were learning Torah, and the fire came down from Shamayim, and then he said, you came to burn my house down, and they said, no, this is the Dvarim Esmechem K'nisnasim Sinai. And then he said to them, oh, Halabai, that my son would be Zeicha to this, but not L'Shem Shamayim, but for the purpose of Kavod. And that was, according to Acher, that was a negative influence on him. The fact that his father had this desire to raise him for his covered and not for the purpose of learning Lishma. To me, that's kind of a lousy excuse, because we know many people have parents who don't raise them for the right purposes, and they still manage to become Talmidei Chachamim. So it's a strange Gemara to say that everything depends on that. So but that's he says. Okay, so Amarle, Dairish. Now the who's being darshan in here? Rabbi Acher is asking Rabbi Meir what else he had darshan, right? They were talking about Rabbi Meir darshan the base manage. They said darshan about the zahav u'zchuchis. It will not be. You cannot reckon the value of Torah by measures of gold and glass, which gold and glass were expensive commodities. Obviously, gold still is, glass less so, but glass is an expensive commodity in the old days. So he said, Acher said to Meir, how did you open up your understanding of this pasuk? Right. Give it to a cushion. Words of Torah are hard to acquire like gold. But they're easy to lose. In other words, they're very fragile, they're very breakable. Just like glass is very breakable. But if gold breaks or glass breaks, you melt it down and you remake it, right? Right? You can make a new vessel out of the metal or a new vessel out of the glass. So, you Acher, Talmid Chacham forgot his learning. There's never an end to the possibility to come back and start afresh. So Acher didn't respond to this. I guess he didn't want to. Amalei said, Dayecha, Meir, Ad Kan Chum Shabbos. Said, okay, Acher was on his horse, and Meir was walking with him. And Acher said to Meir, you can't go any further, because it's Chum Shabbos, 2,000 amos. So Amalei mean hey, how do you know it's 2,000 amos? Amalei mean Tafi the Susay from the steps on my horse. Davina Mane, I was counting. I counted 2,000 amos. Even while we were talking, he was counting in the back of his head. So Ray Meir was very impressed with this, obviously. He said, you have all this wisdom. And you're not going to do tshuva? Why don't you do tshuva? In other words, you're aware of Chum Shabbos, and you tell me just not to go past this. If you really wanted, really out to get me, you would have let me sin. Obviously, you're concerned. So why don't you do tshuva? I can't. Why can't I do tshuva? Amalei lama, right? Why can't you? Amalei shepam achas yover lifnei beis kodesh kadashim. Once I was passing in front of the beis kodesh kadashim. Now I don't think it's necessarily literal. And this could be a meditation which Acher had. Acher was very capable of profound meditation. But he says, I was riding my horse in front of the beis kodesh kadashim on Yom Kippur. Right? Well, it was Yom Kippur. Shechalios b'Shabbos. And I was Yom Kippur. It's also Shabbos. The Shamati Bas Kol Yotzami Beis Kodesh Kadashim. I heard a voice come out of the Kodesh Kadashim Omeres. It said, Shuvu Banim Shovevim, do tshuva all. And say Shuvu Banim, do tshuva all children, all my children. Chutz me'Elisha ben Avuya, except for Elisha ben Avuya Shielda Kochi, who knows my strength because he went up to Shemaim. Umorabi, and he rebelled against me. So the obviously a person here is a baskol. Baskol is not a vua, and above baskol is not a gzera. It's obviously Acher. Acher, we assume, put his own sense of not being able to do tshuva into this voice which he heard. But he felt it was hopeless to do tshuva. It's never hopeless. You could have tshuva, but Acher's perspective was, I'm too far gone. Which is a fascinating thing because you would say, if you realize that this is the MS, so just go for it, right? But Acher felt, I assume he did not want to be hypocritical. He said that I can't go. I'm too far gone. And now the Gemara says, V'chol da min hein asisle. All this from where it happened to him. In other words, we said before that's because his father wanted him to become a Chacham to get covered. But that's maybe a mystical cause, and it really doesn't sound like a great cause in any event. But so what did Acher see that caused him to go off the derech? Now, of course, in the Yerushalmi Chagigah says, where it says before that something when he went up to Shamayim, and he saw what's going on there, and he saw that says the Machmatak was sitting down. So that then he said, "Leis dim les dying." But evidently there was something else which set him up before that. In other words, there was some lack of Yerushalmi which led to him to go astray in his assessment of what's going on in Shamayim. So what happened to him that he had this crisis of faith? They lost the Yerushalmi. So it says, once Acher was sitting in darshaning in Bikas Ginosar, which is near Tveria. He saw a certain person, Rosh Hadeka, went up to the top of a palm tree. He took the chicks, and he sent away the mother. And the guy came down from the tree, and a snake bit him and he died. So Omar, he said, Steve, you should send away the mother. That's when you can take the children, the chicks, Lemani, Tavloch, Varach, Yamin. Says, if you do Shluach Haken, you send away the mother bird, then you're going to have a long life. You're muted.
Who went up in the tree?
What?
Who went up in the tree?
Some guy. He was sitting in Acher, so some guy go up in the tree. And he did Shluach Haken in the tree, and then he came down, he was poisoned to death. In the Bavli, he was then bitten by a snake. The Bavli is a little bit different, a little bit more elaborate. The Bavli says, that he went up on the roof to do Shluach Haken because his father wanted him to bring him some eggs. And that's two mitzvahs in which it says that you're going to have a Richos Yomim. Because Shluach Haken promises a Richos Yomim, and Kabbalah Sabicha Vesimecha promises a Richos Yomim. So therefore, and then as the guy was coming down, he fell off the ladder, broke his neck, and died. So in these cases, Acher was seeing, the Torah promises this long life. It can't, but yet we see it contradicted. So this really comes back to what his problem was. That Leis Dim Leis Dayan. He saw a disconnect between the Torah's commands and reward and punishment. Because even the things the Torah promises, a specific reward, that reward did not come to that person. And he didn't get any, not only did he get a reward, he died. So everybody's saying, okay, there's no connection between what it says in the Torah and any reward or punishment. So therefore he gave up. Okay, now the Gemara says, again, where is this good? Where is this long life? He didn't know that Shedorsha Rabbi Yaakov to I'm not sure exactly what Lefnim means, but to a different verse. He had a different drush on this. Now it's interesting that the Shari Torah says that rather the comment says Lifnim Mena means Kodem Lo. In other words, Rabbi Yaakov darshaned that before Acher has saw this, and had he known this drasha, he wouldn't have gone off the derech. But the Shari Torah says that Rabbi Yaakov was actually Acher's grandson. And the Rabbi Yaakov obviously heard of his grandfather's going off the derech, and he wanted to explain why his grandfather was wrong. What was his mistake? Okay, so he said, he said, Yaakov Darshan, Lifnimi Menu, I guess it means later on. Lamai Tavloch Lamaba, Shukula Tov. The Yitavloch is Lamaba, which is completely good. Barachta Yomim Lasit Shukula Aroch, and you're going to have a long life in the future, which is completely long. So that's the case. What we're saying is that Acher is right. There is no schar in Olam Hazeh. There's no guarantee, right? Person could have been a person's time to die. It could have been something else happened. When it says Ma'itav Varachta Yamin, it's telling us that you'll have reward, but not in this world necessarily. In the world to come, the world's completely good. The world's completely wrong. Now, I would have given a different answer if I was there. I would have said that there are no individual promises in the Torah. The promises are to the nation. If people do these mitzvos, then Amisol will have it good, and they'll be able to be marich yomim. Their lives in the land of Israel will be extended. But because again, there's no specific individual reward and punishment Torah, even it looks like it. But the way Rabbi Yaakov was darshaning it meant that again, all the reward is in the world to come. Nothing is in this world. Okay. Yeshomer, some say Ayidei Shara L'Shanash Rabbi Yehuda Nachtom. Nosum B'fi Akelev Shoses Dam. He saw in the Bible it says it was Rabbi Chutz B'Saturgamon. Chutz was a Tana in the base Medrash Rabbi Gamliel, and he was on a Sarah Rugi Malchus. And when he was killed, so he saw that the Rabbi Chutz was not buried properly, and his tongue was lying in the street. But here it's the same principle. You saw Rabbi Yehuda Nachtom's tongue being eaten up by a dog. Amar Zu Torah Zu Schara. This is Torah. This is reward. This is the tongue which expressed Torah the proper way. He learned Torah his entire life with this. Zu Torah Zu Schara. There is this is Torah and this is reward. So he gave up. He said, again, there's no correlation between one's good deeds and bad deeds, for that matter, and what happens to a person in terms of reward and punishment. Because he saw this horrible Chil Hashem of Rabbi Yehuda Nachman's tongue in the mouth of a dog. He said, forget it. There can't be matan schar, in other words, correlated to the mitzvahs, and Tchias HaMesim. Without Tchias HaMesim, so I could say one person dies, he goes to an afterlife, which is which he gets regardless of what he did. Because if there's no schar and no onesh, doesn't make a difference what you did. If there is tchias hamesim, so that means you need some nature has to be overcome to bring you back, and you have to have a schus for that. So that Acher said it can't be. In other words, if we're saying that there is no schar and onesh in the sense which we normally understand it, it means there can't be tchias hamesim either, because tchias hamesim is a reward, but there are no rewards. So therefore, he was kaifer both in schar v'onesh and in tchias hamesim. The Yerushalmi, some say, another pshat going back to much earlier in life, his mother, when she was pregnant with him, she passed by houses of Avodah Zarah. And she would smell the incense or the korbanos brought before the Avodah Zarah. And evidently it was a very pleasant fragrance. And that fragrance spread through her body like the poison of a snake. In other words, the pleasure that his mother had when she went by the house of Azara, that was the reason why already as a fetus, while his mother was pregnant, he lost his, he had some sort of distortion and deviance in him, which only came out much later on.
Based on Avodah Zarah in Eretz Yisrael?
Well,
time in the base of English?
After the Churban, sure.
But this was before or after?
It's after the Churban. But even before the Churban,
oh, he was born
once the
after?
Romans took over, there was a lot of Avodah Zarah in Eretz Yisrael. The Romans brought Avodah Zarah with them. The whole city was Caesarea, Caesarea, on the Mediterranean Ocean.
Yeah.
It was a city of Avodah Zarah. Sipori was a city which is half Jews and half.
Sipori was Avodah Zarah?
What?
Sipori had Avodah Zarah?
Sipori?
I thought it was like all the time with the Chomim.
It was mixed city. Have both. Okay, I have to go to Mincha, so we'll stop here. And if we're able to learn next week, we'll finish the stuff about Acher and what happened to him later on. Okay?
Great.
Okay, so have a good Shabbos.
Thank you, Rebbe.
Okay.
Yeah, have a good Shabbos.